Hello. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining Flying 118 Motorsports for another segment in our live interview series. This is going to be another fun one. I'm very lucky and blessed that I have such great people and providing such great content for this interview series. This is going to be cool because it's very visual. Doesn't get any much more visual than this. We all enjoy looking at great photos of cars and especially motorsports. So our guest today is Nick from Florid Photography, and we're going to bring Nick in now. Nick, welcome.
How you doing, Chris?
Very well, very well. Thank you very much for taking some time and joining me today.
No problem. Thank you very much for the over-exaggerated intro.
Come on, man. We all love great shots. We all love great photos. So, uh, Nick, tell us, well, what part of the world are you located?
I'm in Wales, UK, mainly North Wales. Don't know whether you know it well or not, but obviously we're more famous for Wales Rally GB than anything else at the minute.
And we're definitely going to get to that. As always, people who are on Periscope, this is live. Feel free to drop some comments, and we'll try to address as many as possible. I think, in tradition here, with every segment, what's in order is a little introduction to who is Nick. Tell us a little bit about, just very in a quick blip, a little bit about the family, where you grew up, and then even lead into how you got into photography.
Yeah, no problem. I'm 33 years old. I've always been in the North Wales area. Always had a keen interest in my photography. I think I started pretty much self-taught as soon as I left school. No qualifications, no anything. It's purely self-taught. Um, as with most photographers, the keen interest in motorsport was the one that that was the direction that I wanted to head to, and I've been fortunate enough to get my foot in the door and meet the right people to get me in the direction that I wanted to go. I've tried my photography with people and things like that, but as you can imagine, the passion the passion isn't the same with people as it is with cars,
Right.
and you can't get offended by a car, but you can get offended by a bride on a wedding day. so no, that's pretty much it, really. I started Florid about 5 6 years ago,
Right.
and I've been fortunate enough to work with other photographers around the country.
Right.
So I now take on five other photographers and
Right.
one
Wow.
videographer. Um, Family wise, I got four gorgeous children. I've been married to my wife Laura for, I'm gonna get in trouble for this, 6 years. um, but no, that's pretty much it. I'm a happy go easy guy, really. So
Yes. And just to be clear, you did say four kids, right?
yeah, you might not notice that with the sound at the minute, but luckily we're gone past 9 p.m. over here, so they're all upstairs.
That's great. That's great. Since this is going to be a very visual broadcast and discussion with you, what I want to do is bring up your website, and
Yeah.
then we'll chat and refer to what we're seeing on your site also. So we're going to take a look at that right now.
Okay.
Um, as you mentioned, you got into photography, and obviously you have your whole business and all your shots are focused on motorsports. Tell me a little bit, like, which came first? Did your passion for motorsports come first, or did your passion for photography come first? So how did each develop?
I'd probably say it has to be the motorsport side of it because, like everybody else, I had all the Ferrari F40 pictures on my walls, the Lamborghini Diablos,
Yeah.
and the things like that. But I can remember seeing cars from day one. My both my parents are really into the motorbikes, but I got no interest with motorbikes whatsoever. I occasionally follow the MotoGP, but no, I'd say cars came first. The motorsports side of it is what appealed to me. With the photography, I don't actually know what got me into it that side because I never actually saw any kind of long term future because the way I see photography is the people making the money are those guys that's out there shooting events like weddings and big events that make the news. But then I was more I was more of a fan of the social side of it. So it all started as a bit of a social media thing, Facebook, your Twitters, your Instagram, and things. And from there, it's I basically got too many hours
Right.
too many hours of work booked in kind of thing, and it went from there really.
Right. And when did it? At what point did everything kind of merge? Your passion for photos and your passion for for motorsport. Like when did everything come together? And how? Explain to us a little bit how it not only emerged, but then took that direction of becoming like a full time profession.
It was one of those things. Like I say, I've been pretty lucky that I met the right people. I've been given the right opportunities, but I've done a few trips around Europe, following different car events. But it's one of those things. It's what's going to bring food to the table? Is it going to be 100,000 likes on your Facebook page, or is it going to be 100,000 jobs booked into my diary?
Right.
So it's one of those things. You have to be realistic. It's all well and good having an active social pages, but then if they're not paying the bills, then you really need to see where the money's going to come from. Me, obviously, having four children, it's one of them things. I can be really mad busy and still struggle to pay bills like everybody else at the end of the month.
Right.
So even I do small part-time jobs too.
Right.
So, but no, I say it's one of them. People have to realize that if they do want to make a living from their social media, that they do need to start turning those page numbers into pounds in the bank.
Right.
So it's one of them. But I kind of understood that early on. So it's like I said, I was given a good opportunity with Monster Energy shooting Gymkhana Grid and working alongside Ken Block and things like that.
Yeah.
They they all kind of fell into their own place, and then one or two viral posts later on, and then everything kind of works itself. But even viral posts, they're all well and good for 24 hours or 48 hours of fame. But
Right.
unless, like I said, unless they're putting food on the table, then it's completely pointless. I've had over like 150,000 likes on a Facebook page before now, and as it was, I got hacked, and I returned to my page one day, zero likes on the page, zero
Oh.
notifications, and we had to start from scratch again.
Oh no.
But it's one of those things. I'd prefer to lose 150,000 likes on a Facebook page than 150,000 pounds out the bank.
Right. Right.
So it's just one of those things, really.
I'm very curious about what you said at the very beginning here that you're self-taught, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
What what
I
techniques were the most difficult to learn?
I think you naturally have to have an eye for photography. You have to know what it is that you want to achieve before you can go out there. I know people that can go out snapping and then spend the next 6 weeks editing away on the computer, but I'm not a fan of that at all. Like everybody else, I will touch up shots and things like that, but I think it's one of those things you have to have an eye for it in the first place. I've always said the same about videos and things like that. I've a lot of people find video and photography the same. I completely disagree with that.
Hmm.
I've tried my hand with a video camera, and it is not the same in the slightest. So
Right.
no, so it's one of those things. But I've always found YouTube videos, like everybody else, have been a massive help. And but it's one of those things. If you know what you want to achieve from your shot that you've taken, then th- then it's easy to search for answers if you know what you want to get out of something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right now, I have on the screen the this is the Ferrari day at Silverstone, and
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the day where it's the track is just committed. It's exclusive to Ferrari, and Ferrari hauls in all the customer, especially like the FX, I'm sorry, FXX cars.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the teams come in, prep the cars. Were you present for this? Was this you and
No,
your team? Was your team there? Were you there?
no, this'll be one of my guys. Will he's absolutely fantastic lad,
Right.
and you can see from his shots he's one of a kind. But no, the Silverstone events we're actually very lucky in the UK to have the facilities to hold events like this. But the likes of Silverstone that day, I'm pretty sure there was 6+ Ferrari FFXs at the time.
Yeah.
Um, all the Formula One cars. You had the likes of Schumacher's classic cars,
Yeah.
and things like that. Basically, if it had a Ferrari logo, there was one or two, one or two there. But like I say, the Ferrari F40 is always a classic of mine.
Yeah.
But apart from that, like everybody has their favorite cars, and Ferrari doesn't seem to do much for me. hence why I
What?
did, hence why I didn't attend that event.
Yeah.
I've taken shots of the more exclusive Ferraris,
Yeah.
but your everyday 430s, 360s, 458s, they don't do it for me.
Oh, Nick, I might have to hang up on this call now.
Yeah, see you, Chris. Yeah.
No, I was asking because I know these events that Ferrari puts on are pretty impressive because they bring the engineers to prep each car for each customer. So
Yeah,
it's pretty insane with all the transporters and everything. I mean, this is like the ultimate. Like
yeah,
this is the top of car ownership here. This is insane.
yeah, pretty much. It's like I say, we do a lot of work with Auto Vivendi for their VMAX 200 events, and it's like the guys with the Koenigseggs and the track prepared Lamborghinis and things like that.
Right.
Um, Obviously, being in the UK, we've got McLaren,
Right.
and all the top level cars all seem to come with their own pit crew these days.
Yeah. Unreal.
Um, but it's one of them. It's like I've been in a McLaren MP4 12C,
Yeah.
and we were doing a launch there, and then the car cut out. But whereas me or you would usually turn your car off and turn it back on again to get it to run again, he had to make a call out to McLaren. They had to come out, and
Right.
I think he was waiting like 4 or 5 hours for them to come out.
Oh no.
They were with the car for about 20 minutes, and he was able to drive home. So it's not all it's not all it's cracked up to be
Right.
having your own
Right.
pit crew.
Wow. Look at this Santa Pod. This is pretty cool. What I
Yeah,
missed the date. When was this?
the Santa Pod that'll be
A month
Gareth.
ago. It looks like.
That'll be another one of ours.
Wow.
We got there because so it's like the drag strip there. Obviously, the Santa Pod Raceway is pretty well known, and Gareth's our most local guy for that event. I'm pretty sure we had 2 or 3 events on that weekend, so we couldn't
Right.
all attend. But yeah, it did, as you can see, he hit the spot with some of those shots.
Yeah, I want to get into because I know we're going to have some viewers here, and of course, a lot of replay viewers of people who are in the industry of photography, who are photographers themselves.
Yeah,
And I notice, and this is probably a perfect shot to set up this next question,
yeah, the panel.
is I noticed you obviously you have a lot of stills, and then you have a lot of shots where you're in a static position and the cars are moving. But then I
Yeah,
also notice shots where you're moving and the car is moving because you're on a
yeah,
road.
yeah,
So there's like
exactly.
a few different ways of you're setting up a shot. Tell me a little bit about what your preference is and what your strategy is with each one of those shots.
It's one of those things. Obviously, with the shot that you're looking at, you now need to freeze the car in time, but obviously you can still see motion in the wheels and the tires,
Exactly. Yeah.
and you still need that effect. Um, I'm pretty sure that's straight out the camera shot. That one, I'm pretty sure it hasn't been touched at all.
Right.
With that one, he'll have been standing around 50 meters back,
Right.
and he will literally focus on the center or somewhere near the front of the car, and then follow the camera along with the car. So as the camera is going past, because he steps back quite a bit, it isn't like being in a forest with a rally car where you've got to go boom and like straight across. Because he's standing back, it does gives you that little bit more time to track the car. But
Right.
what he's done, he slowed the shutter speed down to get the feel of motion. He could have taken the shots at 5,000th of a second, which is obviously quicker than you can blink. But then in the background, you would basically be freezing time
Exactly.
at
Yeah.
that
You wouldn't
point.
get the
And
blur in the tire or the stands or the people.
no, no, not at all. So it's like I said, when we're taking the other kind of shots where we're rolling along with the car, so we're moving and the car's moving. Again, it's completely different again. But it's not an easy shot by all means. What we tend to find with our panoramic shots or any shots like that is it can be very hit and miss. He's
Yeah.
probably had a burst there of 10 or 15 shots, and
Right.
uh, say one out of 10, 1 out of 10 of them shots will be the absolute balls.
Yeah. That
So
was actually my next question is how many bursts do you usually take in order to get that one great shot?
it all depends on what it is. That shot will be pretty much close to the start line of the run, so he's not at full speed there. But obviously, cameras these days, we can burst anything from 10 to 30 shots in a small period. But it's like I said, they won't all be they won't all be pin sharp because the cameras are constantly trying to pick up the focus points.
Right.
Um, but no, I say it can depend, but you can guarantee not all. It doesn't matter how good you are. Not every one of them shots will not be perfect.
Right. Very cool stuff. Get through. Now, I also notice that you play around with shades. Not as much color, but then you get into your blacks, whites, and all your different shades of photos. And I'm assuming in this particular photo, you're doing that because of the type of car you're shooting with the type of. I think that's a motorcycle in the back of that truck,
Uh,
but it's very vintage looking. So because of the
we,
vintage car and the vintage bike, you're going with the vintage look. Is there a tinge of sepia in this, or is this just a pure black and white?
I'm just trying to see whose shot that is. I think that will be one of Gareth's. I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things. Every photographer out there, they all have their own style.
Right.
You'll probably be able to see yourself as you've been clicking through. Uh, we all do different things. We all have our different styles. Uh, with that shot there, he's obviously it's the black and white to toning that absolutely brings the car down. But I'm pretty sure that truck was it had all the patina and the rough spots anyway. So it's one of
Very
those
cool.
things.
It looks. I mean, when you go to shoot something,
Yeah.
are you trying to create like do you have a vision? I'm sure you know what you're shoot. Obviously, you know what you're going to shoot before you
Yeah.
get there. So do you have a vision? Do you say to yourself, I'm going to create a story with my photos today and I'm going to approach it like this? Or do you just take an assortment of different types of angles, stills, motion shots, color, black and whites, and then extract the shots afterwards and say, these shots are going to tell the story?
No, it's like I say, everybody has their own style, but me personally, I already know the kind of shot that I'm trying to achieve
Okay.
from it anyway. I'd prefer to spend an hour trying to perfect the shot that I want, rather
Right.
than taking five or six different angles or different perspectives of the cars or the scene,
Right.
and then forcing it to work as such. But like I said, uh, most photographers they've already got an eye for what it is that what they're trying to hit. I don't know whether it's the same with everybody else,
Right.
but most photographers, obviously, when they do hit that perfect shot, then 90% of other photographers pretty much agree too.
Yeah. This is another great one where the sense of motion
Yeah,
is excellent.
that
You know,
that
the
yeah
subject is perfectly
that'll
defined,
be
and everything
yeah
else is yeah, it's very cool shot.
that'll be Santa Pod too. But again, it's exactly the same shot as the other panel. Just
Right.
capturing the speed. Obviously, like I say, he could have shot it at 5,000th of a second, but it just wouldn't have
Right.
it just wouldn't have the output that that one does. Obviously, that stands out. He's captured it just the right time, and I'd be pretty surprised if he had to do any touching up on that at all.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. And Nick, if you don't mind, I know that once again we're going to have photographers or people who are passionate about photography watching this, and to be as forthcoming as possible. I'm not a photographer, and I don't know the details of photography, but I can definitely appreciate, like I'm sure a lot of people, really good photos, and you have a lot of very nice photos here. However, for those that are a little bit more deeper involved in photography, do you mind sharing what type of equipment you use, as far as what your favorite camera is, what your favorite lenses are, maybe what your favorite tripod is, or mounting equipment?
Me personally, I've always been one for Sony, purely because I'm more rally focused, and the speeds and the lights with what comes with rallying can be extremely difficult. Like I said, you probably know yourself, cameras and equipment is not cheap at all.
Right.
So you have got to be careful. With rallying, you've got to know when to kind of back up, or that. I've had cameras that are worth £3,000 to £4,000. I've also had cameras that have been worth 200 to 300. Um, with rallying, with me personally, and as you can imagine, there's lots of stones being thrown up, and the last thing you want is your camera to be to be damaged, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's it's one of them. I say in any kind of Sony gears, mine, but my preference would be the A7 Mark III. But it's I treasure that much that I'm constantly afraid of getting any of my equipment damaged.
Right.
I end up booking my diary so tightly that I can't afford for my equipment to be out of action for a week. I don't know whether it's the same for you there in the US, but our kind of turnaround for any kind of repairs, whether it's through insurance or anything like that, they can take anywhere from 12 to 15 weeks just to get your camera back. Um, so you've got to you got to be really selective.
Yeah.
And as for lenses and things like that, it's again it's all preference, but in any kind of wide angle shots for me, they're my kind of go to. So and I'm a big fan of the 35mm art, which probably doesn't mean a lot to most people, but I like to get as much as I can into my shots. But again, you have to know what it is that you're shooting at the time. That there's no such thing as the perfect lens.
Right.
It's one of them things. You have to try and try and try, and different events obviously bring different equipment.
Yeah.
But no, it's one of those things, but it's certainly not cheap. So,
Yeah. Um, Let me ask you this: when when myself or obviously any fan is watching a race on TV,
yeah,
and you see the cars going around the track, obviously you see all the um, professional photographers lining the perimeter of the track with their press passes hanging from the neck, with their huge camera bags and their big tripods that they're carrying around, and everyone has their sort of strategic position that they're shooting from.
yeah.
Um, there's, it seems like there's not a competition, but there's a need. Obviously, there's a lot of need for photos. But what is it that you would perceive as a different shot, like a different strategy that would set your shot apart? What is this something a photographer can do to really get their shot noticed and have that little bit of an edge?
It's one of those things. It's like you said. I completely agree. I've been to different events where you've struggled to get in certain areas because there's that many photographers there.
Right.
But I did no. I completely get where you're coming from there. But the thing with racing is everybody seems to get the same kind of shots unless there's an accident, which
Right.
might not sound great for
Right.
cars, teams, or anything like that. It's one of those things. You'd be surprised. You'll always find that the most people with cameras will always go at the accident hotspot at the hotspots, hoping that something happens.
Right.
Um,
I'm laughing because, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm laughing though because it's true. What you just
yeah,
said is so true. You see, there's that accident that always seems to happen by that one photographer, and he's leaning
yeah,
right over the rail, and that one guy is just getting like all the shots.
yeah. It's one of those things because we struggle to make money from top draw championship teams, whether it's the touring cars, the British GT. Most teams come along with their own media teams these days, where
Right.
they have their own photographers, they have their own social media people. So,
Right.
but it's one of them. We enjoy the sport just as much as everybody else, and as much as people say they don't like seeing car crashes, they do. So, but no, it's one of them things. It's like you said, being different from everybody else. We've been to different events, kind of thing, and I completely agree. You see the same shot, whether it's somebody with their iPhone or whether it's somebody with a high class camera, but they're pretty much getting the same shot because they're crouched down in the same position.
Right.
Um, but but going back to rallying, that's why I like rallying again. People will tend to go towards the jumps, to the water splashes and things. But
Right.
everybody knows in motorsports anything can happen at any time, and it's one of those things. You're either there or you're not. But as a
Right.
photographer, you can only be in one place at a time. So
Right.
that's why it's always best to have a team around you. Um, if you can get a few guys along the same circuit, along the same stage, then and something happens, that then hopefully one of you guys caught it. Um,
Right.
but it's one of those things. It's all hit and miss, especially with circuit racing, which is obviously very popular in the UK. But say I'd still prefer to get out to the forest and the rally in my stages myself.
Right. And we're going to get to some of those rally pictures in a second. Um, I just really love looking at Alton Park.
Yeah,
Very cool stuff.
we're pretty lucky, really. I spread my guys all over the UK, but Bolton Park's around 30-minute drive from me,
Oh
and
wow, that's great.
there's always things going on, whether it's
Yeah.
amateur track days, cars testing, or various other car events. Not necessarily races on track, but they do a lot of good things down there, and it's not too overpriced either. I think motorsport today, bar Formula One, is pretty reasonable when it comes to entry.
Nick, question for you. The touching on what we were just talking about with how many photographers you see at a circuit, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously, a lot of fans. There's a ton of fans at each one of these major events, and they're spread out across the course. And everyone, some fans have, their own camera. Some are using their cell phones,
yeah.
and fans might be doing the same thing over and over again whenever they go to an event like this. What advice would you give to an amateur, novice fan who's going to a track? Just some basic advice on to really just maybe get that little bit better of a shot every time they go to a circuit.
It's one of those things. Obviously, looking at somebody else's shot and understanding why their shot is better than yours, it is a key thing, because I've done it myself where I've looked at other people's shots that have been standing 10 foot back from me, and I thought, wow. But from that, I kind of already understood that he got that better shot because he was standing that little bit back. But again, I think that goes back to having an eye for it in the first place. You have to know what kind of shot you're after, and how you're going to frame it correctly. In terms of shooting, it's one of those things. It's practice, practice, practice. If you
Right.
don't understand how a certain shot's achieved, that there's many pages and groups that are willing to help. I've done it myself uh, where people have asked me how I've got a certain shot, and I'm more than happy to explain. And I'm pretty sure most people are the same as well. You do get your few professionals. Well, they call themselves professionals who can be really greedy, and they won't share nothing and things. But I think the whole motorsport community and car community kind of thing needs new people, and it needs new eyes on different shots. There,
Right.
it's like I said, I've seen people that have taken shots with their iPhone, and I thought that they've taken it with professional gear, and they've transferred it to their phones.
Yeah.
Like I said, the cameras are constantly getting better and better and better, and it's one of those things that I do fear that at some point it will get to a stage where teams and championships they won't have their own media teams. They'll just purely be social based,
Right.
and they'll be taking the shots from all over the web. So,
You kind of stole my next question there, which is, um, do you feel that smartphones today, like current top end, even now, there's some midline phones available, and the one the most popular in the media today is the Google Pixel 3a.
yeah,
Came out as a midline, mid-price phone, but maintained the same camera technology as their top end phone.
yeah,
Are finding that cameras in the smartphones are as capable as some
yeah,
dedicated
yeah. Well,
photos, and it's
yeah,
just the
no,
eye of the picture taking it?
no. I pretty much completely agree with you.
Yeah.
The only problem people ever used to have was the shutter speed from from the second that you touch the button on your phone to taking the shot used to take 1 or 2 seconds, if you can remember.
Yeah.
But phones these days are so quick and so capable. I'll admit, I bought my latest phone. I got the P30 Pro,
Oh, you
and
did?
and I I bought that purely for the camera.
Yeah, that's a
I,
nice
I,
phone.
I think it's so clever, it's so smart,
Yeah.
and I do actually think that some of the technology in the phones these days is kind of taking it to a next level. So it's like my phone can predict what it is that I'm taking a photo of. So if I'm taking a picture of a car, it'll tell me it's a car. If I'm taking a picture of a landscape, it'll tell me what kind of landscape it is. And but my camera can't do that.
Right.
Um, I did. We all know the way technology is that that eventually things are going to get smaller, things are going to get faster. But I think cameras these days are, especially on phones, are really impressive. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing where they take it, because obviously a good shot to me is a good shot to everybody else.
Right. I'm going to try to ask a little bit more detailed photographer questions. Once again, I'm not a photographer, but on a, is it easier when you're at the track and you're driving there and it's a really sunny day? Are you saying, "Oh, I'm going to be dealing with a lot of glare and sun issues today and reflections," or like, are you happier to see a sunny day, or are you happier to see an overcast day?
It's one of those things. Obviously, depending on how you go about things, you can always improve. Um, I have a lot of issues, not so much with circuit racing, but with the rallying kind of thing. But you kind of have to assume it's going to be dark because there's that many overhanging trees, and the clouds are forever changing. So
Right.
even on a really dull grey day, it, you will have your moments where the sun will come through eventually, kind of thing. But it's one of those things. But sometimes, moody clouding it can bring out a lot more from a photo. It can tell a better story. But like I say, I don't think many motorsport photographers actually like beaming, glaring sun.
Right.
Even though I'm a fan of shooting directly into the sun to purposely get that flare.
Okay.
Um, but again, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have the right equipment, but even on really bright days, we just use different filters,
Right.
because that's probably the one of the first pieces of equipment in my camera bag is a polarizer filter,
Right.
which I'm not sure whether you're aware of what they do. But it's like the polarizing filter will bring that glare down. It will reduce that reflection off the cars. And again, it's one of those things. Nobody can predict the weather these days, especially in this country. So, but nine times out of 10, it's generally overcast here, and
Right.
it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But as long as your equipment's well protected, then there's no reason why you shouldn't get that shot that you're hoping to achieve. Or it's like you said before, it was trying to get that different kind of shot.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. I took out a Rocket Bunny Toyota GT86.
Right.
We, we've been planning this shoot for weeks and weeks and weeks, and the day comes where we were both available, and it was absolutely bouncing down. So we took him to a local industrial estate, and the shots were so moody, and the raindrops up off the bumpers, they just made the shot into something completely different.
Right.
And we both came away from that shoot absolutely gobsmacked with our efforts. We had no external lighting or anything like that,
Right. Right.
and it was one of those things. It's like even though it was raining, we both arrived at the estate thinking, right, we'll just get what we can out of this, and we'll have to try again. But it turns out that we knocked it out the park within
Right.
30-40 minutes,
Yeah.
and it was one of those things. You can't always let the weather let you down, and
Right.
it's especially in this country. Like I say, we're predominantly overcast, But
Right.
you've just got to understand how your light works and how you can get the best out of it, kind of thing.
How hard will you try, and how much effort will you put into getting the perfect shot with by applying a filter, like you said, or like will you put a lot of effort into getting the perfect shot, or will you say, you know what, I just want to get close to the perfect shot because I know I can do things in edit.
Yeah, it all depends on what the situation is. So so it's like little tiny things where you see lampposts and street signs and things like that. They don't worry me too much.
Okay.
It's like I say, if I can avoid doing things like that, then I will do so, because a lot of the time it is just a case of stepping to the side a few inches or kneeling down a little bit more to hide to hide a certain object in the background.
Right.
It's one of those things, but a lot of photographers these days they will try and hit that perfect shot without any editing whatsoever.
Right.
But again, that all comes with practice,
Right.
and it's one of those things you can look back on things. Me personally, if I don't like the look of it, I will try until I can at least get it to the state that I'd be happy with, and that isn't going to cost me 3 hours of editing time. Um, I've had shots that have gone up on posters, on business walls and things like that,
Right.
and I can spend anywhere up to 10 hours on one shot. But
Yeah.
if I'm on a tight deadline for an event where people want their shots out, you don't have time to sit in front of a computer and edit all the time.
Right.
So getting that shot as best you can is key. Um, Obviously, in motorsports, various things can change at any time. But if there's a crash, a lot of news outlets want to see that crash within 20 minutes of it happening. So it's completely up to you to perfect any kind of shot that you can in that short period. It's like I said, nobody wants to be sitting there in front of a computer for hours and then just
Right.
doing one thing.
Yeah. I mean, the better well, not the better photographers, but I guess you have. How would you categorize it then? I mean, I'm having just based on that, and it's very interesting what you just mentioned. Are
Yeah,
we talking about better photographers or better editors? Like, are better photographers people who have better editing skills, or are
it's
better photographers just better photographers without, like, how do you have to be a great editor to be a great photographer?
It certainly helps, but again, if you know that if you do know what you want to get out of a shot, and it is achievable, then obviously being a better photographer would obviously help that out. But I've seen it myself where I've seen a shot somewhere online, and I thought, wow, that's an absolutely amazing shot. But then I realised this shot was done 4 or 5 weeks ago, and when people do actually show you how much effort that they put into some editing their shots, you do have to question just how good a photographer they are.
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody has their downfalls. I'm by no means perfect, but no, it does make you question. But I, I'd certainly say having both sets of skills kind of helps. I'm actually a fan of digital art and graphic design myself anyway, so I do like editing things,
Right.
but but no, it's very rare to see a shot that's up on a billboard that hasn't had hours and hours and hours worked on it. And to answer your question, I'd always say it's always better to be the better photographer in the first place,
Right.
because if you spend that little bit of an extra time getting the shot that you want to get and getting the mood exactly how you like it, changing your settings,
Yeah.
uh, waiting for, even if it's a case of waiting for somebody to move out of a background, or waiting for a certain type of light. I'd say it's always worth sitting there waiting if you have the time to get that shot, rather than spending hours on end clicking
Yeah.
away on the computer, because I I haven't got 10 hours in a day to edit my photos, kind of things,
Right.
and I don't think many other people have either. So
Yeah. I stopped on this photo because we didn't get this car here in the States, unfortunately, the Golf R wagon. It's gorgeous.
yeah, we're actually quite lucky with that. Harry, another photographer, he he kindly volunteered his Golf R as a bit of a
Oh, that's
the,
his?
yeah, that's how it did. That's his daily driver, but we actually use that as a photography car.
That's
So
awesome.
so we'll actually put the back seats down, lift the boot open, and then we'll get chased by multi-million-pound supercars down the runway.
That's great. That's a
But
beautiful car.
no, it's a very very nice car. He's very happy with it. He's done some nice subtle modifications with it too.
Yeah.
That shot for the hour was basically for him. Just as a bit of, just as a bit of a thank you, really.
That's awesome. Um, this
So it's
looks
like
like photos from there was a it was called the Great Shootout or the Great Drag Race or something. I forget which magazine did it. I know a couple magazines have done it where they've pitted about maybe 10, 12 cars against each other. Is this what we're looking at right now?
no, this is well. To be honest, these shots were all out of the back of that Golf R.
Okay.
Um, but at the time, these are from one of the Auto Vivendi events for VMAX. This is
Right.
basically a chance for drivers to chuck their cars down a 2 mile strip to achieve maximum speeds. But
Wow.
obviously, our speed limit is 70 mile an hour maximum on the motorways.
Right.
But these kind of events are geared at people bringing their highly modified cars, bringing their standard
Right.
road going cars, their supercars, their new cars, and they basically get 2 mile to achieve what they can. It's not a race at all. That they're not racing against each other. Some people do like to try and get the highest speed of the day, which it's surprising just how many cars hit over 200 mile an hour in that strip.
Wow.
Um, but we get everything out of it. It's a very very well organized event. It's very very safe. But it's like I say, it's one of the only events in the UK where people can actually get close, if not achieve the maximum speed of their vehicles.
Yeah.
Um, we're very lucky to be part of it, and very thankful for the team. But it's like I said, some of the vehicles that are on show are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
First, like we have our Ferraris, we have McLarens, all hitting 200 mile an hour. But
Hmm.
then we also have. Did you have the Nissan Qashqai in the US?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have like Nissan Qashqais, but they have GTR engines.
Right.
So so it's like the Seven Valley Motor guys that they'd have 1500 horsepower Nissan Qashqais, or the full throttle performance cars. So we'd have Supras hitting over 2000 brake horsepower, which are obviously amazing. But then we have some days where we'll have three or four Koenigseggs chasing us down, and we have an amazing day. But as you can imagine, it's one of those days. If the weather's right, then you can have a really good a day. But this is close to the public, and
Yeah.
it's purely a social gathering for the Auto Vivendi Club, and it's one of a kind in the UK, to be fair. And
It's great.
we're really happy. We're really excited to be involved with it, and we're looking forward to when it goes. We've seen some pretty exclusive cars down there. A lot of them won't actually ever be seen on the road, so it's pretty cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Nick, unfortunately, we do have to start winding things down, and I wanted to get a couple extra questions in here before we close out.
Yeah.
Along the lines of what I mentioned before, as far as maybe amateurs at a track looking to you know, maybe get a little bit better shot. I think let's take even one step prior to that is people who are looking to just to get into photography themselves. You know, maybe they have a passion for it. They're thinking about getting into it. Even better that maybe they're even into motorsports.
Yeah.
Where do you recommend they start? Once again, I think it leads back a little bit more toward the equipment. Where's the best place to start? With a camera, with a cell phone, for those people that are looking to get into it and start taking some photos on a regular basis?
Certainly getting yourself, it doesn't have to be a mega expensive camera, even if it's a couple £100 or dollars camera with a basic lens kits. Pretty much you pretty much see the difference immediately, and there's that many settings to get your head around, kind of thing. That it can be quite scary,
Right,
but all I'd say, if you haven't actually had hold of a DSLR before yourself, start off in automatic mode, see how it works, see how it performs, kind of thing, and
right,
then work your way through. Because the better you get to know the camera, the better your photography skills will get. You're taking shots and you're not happy with it, it's understanding which setting you need to change to do it. So
right,
it you certainly don't need mega expensive equipment, but I'd say move away from the phone side of it, because you'll never get taken seriously turning up
right,
with your high vis vest, your media pass, and an iPhone 10 in your hand.
right. Is it safe to say that people who are looking to get into it are going to drive themselves crazy if they're looking to get one shot? Meaning, it's the norm that every photographer is taking bursts, not clicking once. Correct?
Yeah, pretty much. It's one of those things. I used to be happy. As long as I got the shot or the car that I was looking for. So it's like, say I had a favorite driver personally, or we were employed to follow a certain team. As long as we got the shots that they'd be happy with, we could take over 2,000 shots in a couple hours, kind of
Yeah.
thing. But and they know that only 5, maybe 10 maximum of them shots will get used.
Right.
So not every shot's going to be perfect, and it's like you said, the sooner you understand that everybody's the same, they might be doing things a little bit different, but
Right.
everybody will get shots that they're happy with at some point.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent stuff, Nick. To close out, I want to give you an opportunity to get some shout outs. Anyone who supported you, who's there for you, inspired you, who's close to you, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Well, obviously, my wife Laura, she spent many a time with me, clicking on the laptop next to her, click, 3 o'clock in the morning. My kids don't necessarily help with my photography, but they,
Right.
they do try and keep me calm. And obviously, the other guys with me at Florida, I can't do anything without those guys. I
Right.
can't be everywhere at once, and they're a really talented bunch. So we have Stuart, Will, Gareth. We've just taken on Ben and Josh, and it's one of those things. So it's without my team, I can't do everything. I can't do everything on my
Right.
own, and they know it.
Right.
And obviously, we have our clothing sponsor, Performance Metals. They've been behind us from day one, and they're a great bunch of guys. That's
That's great stuff.
yeah.
Nick, I can't thank you enough for taking the time and speaking with me today. This has been a blast. I mean, there's just so much good content on your site. Um, how do people? What's the best way for people to go about contacting you if they are looking to do business with you?
We're all about Facebook these days, just
Okay.
as most things. We do everything through the website, but we tend to link everything back to Facebook purely that's where everybody knows us from,
Right.
and we're pretty easy to get hold of. If anybody search Florida Photography on Facebook, we're not hard to find at all.
Right. Nick, thank you again. I really appreciate it. And to everyone who's joined us today, and for all future viewers, thank you very much for your support. This has been an absolute blast for me. And I hope you join us for upcoming live interview segments. But thank you again. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. All right. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.